Drugs ruin people's lives, not just the lives of the drug users, but also the lives of those around them. I'm going to tell you from my experience just how it can affect a family for life, as well as the consequences the drug user will have to live with for the rest of their life. When I was growing up, I had a relatively happy childhood. At least it felt happy. I had many friends and always had something going on. My mother always made sure that we had what we needed. She also seemed to even make us feel spoiled. We had very little money, so we weren't spoiled in the normal way, but we felt spoiled. In my opinion, this is the best way for a child to grow up well-rounded. I had little knowledge at the time about what was really going on when it came to my family, how things were going to end up by the time I was 10 years old. I never realized that I wouldn't even begin to really know my father. As I got older and more I came to understand about what went on, my father was a drug addict and an alcoholic. Throughout most of my childhood, he was out trying to score his next hit. By the time I was 10, my parents had been divorced for the second time, and my father was in prison for possession. He was in California at the time, so a California prison is where he stayed for the next 5 years. He was too far away to visit, not that my mother would have allowed that. The only contact was the very occasional phone call. I was too young at the time to realize or even understand why he was gone. I'm not sure that it even affected me much. Most of the time I didn't even think about the fact that he was gone. My mom gave my brother and me the best life possible, trying to shield us from what he had done. Despite the absence of my father, we were a happy little family. When I was a teenager, I started to see my father more and more. He was out of prison and desperately wanted his wife and children back in his life. Since he was still on parole, he could not move back to Oregon. He continued going to his Narcotics Anonymous meetings and started going to church. He was desperate to turn his life around. My mother had no intention of letting him back into our lives and made it very clear to him every time she spoke to him. Eventually he met a woman and her 2 children through NA and started a new family in California. He then made it a twice-a-year event to come up and visit his own family and children still in Oregon. There has always been the option to go to California to visit him, but my brother and I never felt the need. The only time we ever went down there was when he married his new wife. When he is here visiting, I may see him once or twice. He tries really hard to be our dad and to be a part of our lives. He still tries to act like dad and imposes views on us. I have no need for a father figure now. I know he means well, but he lost his chance a long time ago. Now that I am an adult, I have asked a lot of questions about what really happened. I didn't actually know anything when I was young. I was kept in a perfect little bubble for most of my child and teen years, and now I understand why. My father used drugs that were administered by needle, a needle that was not clean. Since he was so careless about how he used, he contracted HIV. This disease will follow him the rest of his life and eventually end up killing him. My brother is 2 years older than me, so he knew and understood almost everything that went on. Now that I know what went on, what my brother knew the whole time, I feel lucky to have been kept in the dark. My father was not able to have a real childhood. He has always been full of resentment, much like my mother. He has had a much different outlook on life than I have. I feel thankful for that. I at least had a halfway normal childhood. It had a very negative effect on my brother for a very long time. I said that I never really knew my father. Now that I have found out everything that there is to know about what happened with my father, I feel that I know him pretty well. However, the more important issue is that I have never and will never understand my father. How could he put anything above his wife and children? When we should have been the most important things in his life, he chose to put drugs and alcohol first. How could anyone do something so cold and ridiculously stupid? That is something that I will never and could never understand. Unless I was to become a drug addict, I suppose. Thanks to my father's example, that is something that I will never have to worry about because I have seen what it can do to a person. That is why I feel a little more like how my brother has felt his whole life, resentful towards someone you don't understand. I have come to the conclusion that I no longer care to understand. I hope I have helped others to understand, as well, that drug use is not all fun and games, that it will make the lives of everyone around the drug user completely miserable, that it can cause things that will haunt them for the rest of their life. So please, to everyone, don't do drugs, because it is not worth what you can lose. Thank you.